In the heart of the Midwest, surrounded by sprawling fields and tall oak trees, stood Willow Creek Manor, a grand Victorian estate with a history as twisted as its gnarled branches. Built in 1885 by the reclusive Alistair Whitmore, the manor became the centerpiece of local legend, whispered about in the dim light of taverns and the hushed conversations of townsfolk. The Whitmore family lived in the manor for just a single generation, their lives marred by tragedy. Alistair's wife, Isabella, was known for her beauty and kindness. Yet after the birth of their only daughter, Clara, she fell into a deep melancholy. On stormy nights, townspeople reported seeing lights flicker in the upper windows, accompanied by the sound of mournful singing that seemed to drift on the wind. It was on one such night, in 1901, that Isabella vanished without a trace. Search parties combed the surrounding woods, but no one found a sign of her. Alistair, consumed by grief, locked the upper floors and fell into seclusion, leaving only the whispers of his daughter echoing through the halls. Clara grew up in the shadow of her mother's absence, haunted by the rumors that surrounded her family. After Alistair's death, the manor stood empty for decades, succumbing to the slow decay of time. When a young couple, the Parkers, purchased the estate in 1975, they were drawn to its historic charm, blissfully unaware of its dark past. Soon after moving in, Sarah Parker began to experience unsettling phenomena. She'd hear faint music wafting through the air, an old lullaby that felt both familiar and foreign. Shadows flickered just out of sight, and the feeling of being watched grew stronger with each passing night. One stormy evening, as rain lashed against the windows, Sarah explored the dusty attic, where she stumbled upon a hidden trunk. Inside, she discovered an array of delicate dresses, a porcelain doll, and a leather-bound diary filled with Isabella's elegant script. As she read the pages, Sarah felt an eerie connection to the woman who had once lived there, her words spilling forth tales of joy, sorrow, and an inexplicable longing. The diary hinted at a hidden room in the manor, a place where Isabella had sought solace from her grief. Compelled by a mix of curiosity and dread, Sarah enlisted her husband, Mark, to help her search for it. After hours of rummaging through the creaking house, they found a small door concealed behind a tattered wallpaper in the master bedroom. Inside the room, they discovered a scene frozen in time, a beautifully furnished space, untouched by decay, adorned with faded photographs of Isabella and Clara. But what drew their attention was a single, dusty music box sitting on a table. As Sarah opened it, the lullaby filled the air once more, the haunting melody wrapping around them like a shroud. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted, the temperature dropped, and an inexplicable sadness washed over them. In that moment, they caught a glimpse of a woman in a flowing white dress standing by the window, her face a mixture of sorrow and relief. "Clara," she whispered, her voice barely audible, as if carried by the wind. Mark reached for Sarah's hand, and together they spoke aloud, acknowledging the spirit before them. "We know who you are. We want to help you find peace." As they shared the story of Isabella's life, the atmosphere lightened. The music box played on, the melody intertwining with the echoes of their voices. Slowly, the figure began to fade, a serene smile replacing her sorrow. "Thank you," Isabella whispered, her spirit finally free from the chains of her grief. From that night onward, Willow Creek Manor felt different. The oppressive weight of sorrow lifted, replaced by a gentle warmth. The couple found solace in the house, transforming it into a haven of hope and healing. The tales of the past remained, woven into the very fabric of the manor. And though the shadows still danced in the corners, they now felt less like hauntings and more like the whispers of a family finally at peace, a reminder that love, no matter how lost, can always find its way home. As the weeks turned into months, Sarah and Mark poured their energy into restoring Willow Creek Manor. The once lonely halls came alive with laughter and warmth, the echoes of Isabella's lullaby now a cherished memory rather than a haunting presence. However, the couple couldn't shake the feeling that they were still uncovering layers of the manor's history, secrets waiting to be revealed. One afternoon, while sorting through boxes in the basement, Sarah stumbled upon an old ledger hidden beneath the floorboards. Its pages were yellowed and brittle, but the entries detailed the household's affairs and, more intriguingly, notes about a series of visitors, mysterious figures who came and went during Isabella's final months. The names were unfamiliar, but one stood out. A Dr. Thorne, noted as a special consultant for Isabella's ailments. Curiosity piqued. Sarah researched the doctor's name and discovered that he had been a well-known practitioner of unconventional methods, rumored to dabble in the occult. Whispers of his practices sent chills down her spine. Many believed he had a hand in Isabella's decline. Determined to learn more, Sarah shared her findings with Mark. Together, they delved into town archives and uncovered unsettling tales of other families who had crossed paths with Dr. Thorne, all of whom faced tragedies of their own. It became clear that his visits coincided with Isabella's deepening despair and eventual disappearance. That night, as thunder rumbled in the distance, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She found herself drawn back to the attic, the dusty music box still sitting on the table. As she turned the key, the lullaby played softly, wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. But this time, the room felt charged with an unseen energy. "Isabella?" Sarah called softly, her voice barely rising above the melody. The air grew colder, and a familiar presence materialized, shimmering in the candlelight. Isabella appeared, her face a mixture of gratitude and urgency. "You must listen," she whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "Dr. Thorne didn't just help me. He sought to control me. His dark influence lingered in this house." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "What did he want from you?" "To harness my spirit," Isabella replied, her voice trembling. "He believed my grief was a source of power." Before Sarah could ask more, the room darkened, shadows swirling around them like smoke. The music box's melody warped, morphing into a discordant tune that resonated with pain. Isabella's form flickered, her expression turning desperate. "You must find the truth. Only then can we be free." Mark rushed into the attic, sensing the shift in the air. "Sarah, what's happening?" Sarah turned to him, her heart racing. "Isabella needs our help. We have to confront Dr. Thorne's legacy." They knew they couldn't ignore the doctor's dark history any longer. The couple set out to uncover his past, seeking clues in the very town that had once whispered his name. They visited the local library, poring over dusty books and old newspapers. Each article and record painted a picture of a man shrouded in mystery, part healer, part charlatan, and rumored to have dabbled in the occult arts. As the couple pieced together the fragments of Dr. Thorne's life, they discovered that he had vanished shortly after Isabella's disappearance. The town had believed he left in disgrace, but there were hints that he may have been conducting experiments, rituals that could tether souls to the living world. Driven by determination, Sarah and Mark uncovered a reference to a hidden chamber beneath the manor, a place where Thorne supposedly performed his dark rituals. The discovery filled them with dread, but they understood they had to confront whatever lay below if they were to set Isabella's spirit free. That night, armed with flashlights and courage, they descended into the depths of Willow Creek Manor. The air grew thick with tension as they navigated the narrow passageway, the walls damp and cool to the touch. Strange symbols were carved into the stone, remnants of rituals long past. As they reached a heavy wooden door, an overwhelming sense of dread washed over them. Sarah glanced at Mark, fear etched on her face. "What if he's still here?" Mark squeezed her hand. "We'll face it together." With a deep breath, they pushed the door open, revealing a dimly lit chamber filled with remnants of Dr. Thorne's experiments. Candles flickered in the shadows, illuminating an altar at the center of the room. A dark, oppressive energy hung in the air. And there, amidst the chaos of old artifacts and forgotten memories, they saw it. A mirror framed in ornate silver, the surface rippling as if it were a pool of water. Sarah felt an irresistible pull toward it, the reflections within dancing and shifting, revealing glimpses of past moments. Isabella's joy, her pain, and the dark figure of Dr. Thorne looming in the background. As they approached, a voice echoed in the chamber, low and resonant. "You should not have come here." The voice reverberated around the chamber, sending a chill down Sarah's spine. The air crackled with energy, and the shadows seemed to stretch and twist, coiling like serpents around the altar. Mark instinctively stepped in front of Sarah, his heart pounding. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice steady despite the fear creeping in. The figure began to materialize from the darkness. A tall man with sharp features, dressed in an old-fashioned suit that hinted at another time. His eyes glinted with an unsettling mix of curiosity and menace. "You've disturbed what should remain buried," Dr. Thorne said, a sly smile curling on his lips. Sarah felt a surge of anger. "Isabella is trapped because of you. You used her pain to fuel your dark ambitions." Thorne's expression shifted, his amusement fading. "Ah, but grief is a powerful force. It binds the living to the dead in ways you cannot begin to comprehend." He stepped closer, the shadows swirling around him like a cloak. "What do you think you can achieve by confronting me? You are merely mortal, playing with forces far beyond your understanding." Mark tightened his grip on Sarah's hand, their resolve unwavering. "We're here to free her. You can't hold on to her anymore." The doctor laughed softly, a sound that echoed off the stone walls. "Free her? You know not what you ask. Her spirit is entwined with mine, sustained by the very anguish you seek to release. She is my greatest achievement." Sarah felt the ground beneath her tremble, the very fabric of the chamber quaking with an ominous energy. "No, she deserves to be at peace." With a fierce determination, she stepped forward, challenging Thorne's presence. "Isabella, if you can hear me, we're here for you." For a moment, the air stilled, and the shadows recoiled. The mirror began to ripple more violently, reflecting flashes of Isabella's past. Her laughter, her sorrow, the day she had vanished. In the depths of the mirror, they glimpsed her spirit, a flickering light trapped within darkness. "Help me!" Isabella's voice cried out, filled with desperation. As Thorne's eyes narrowed, Sarah felt a rush of adrenaline. "Mark, we need to break this connection. The mirror. It must be a focus for his power." Mark nodded, and they quickly scanned the chamber for something to use. On the altar, they spotted a collection of old candles, remnants of Thorne's rituals. "We need to create a circle," he suggested. "If we can purify the space, we might weaken him." As they hurriedly arranged the candles, Thorne's laughter echoed, laced with menace. "You think you can outsmart me? You are merely prolonging the inevitable." With trembling hands, Sarah lit the candles, their flames flickering to life, casting a warm glow that pushed back the shadows. The air grew thicker with tension as the circle formed, its light illuminating the dark corners of the chamber. They stood together, holding hands, and Sarah focused on Isabella's spirit, calling to her with all her heart. "Isabella, we believe in you. You are not bound to him. You can break free." The mirror trembled violently, images swirling as Isabella's face appeared. Her eyes filled with anguish but also hope. I can try," she cried. But Thorne's laughter boomed, echoing around them. "You cannot hope to sever what I have bound. The darkness is my domain." As the flames flickered in defiance, Sarah felt a surge of power flowing through her, an ancient energy igniting within the circle. "No, we are stronger together. Isabella, you have the strength to break free." Isabella's form flickered, her ethereal essence battling against the oppressive darkness. The room pulsed with energy as Sarah and Mark focused on their love for each other and for Isabella, weaving their hopes and memories into a tangible force. "Break the chains of grief," Sarah shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. "You deserve to be free." Suddenly, the mirror shattered, shards flying through the air like shards of ice. And in that moment, a blinding light enveloped the chamber. Thorne screamed, his form contorting as the shadows clawed at him, trying to pull him back into the darkness. "No, this isn't over," he roared, his voice distorted and filled with rage as he was consumed by the light. In the chaos, Isabella's spirit surged forth, breaking free from the chains that had bound her. A radiant glow enveloped her, illuminating the chamber with a warmth that chased away the lingering darkness. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice now clear and powerful. "You've set me free." As the light expanded, it enveloped Sarah and Mark, lifting them off their feet. The oppressive weight of the chamber dissipated, and they felt a sense of peace wash over them, as if the very essence of Willow Creek Manor was being reborn. But just as quickly as it began, the light began to fade. "Isabella!" Sarah cried out, reaching toward the ethereal figure. "I will always be with you," Isabella said, her voice echoing with love and gratitude. "Remember me, and I will never truly be gone." And with that, she vanished, leaving behind a radiant glow that illuminated the chamber before slowly dissipating into the air. Breathless, Sarah and Mark stood in the aftermath, the shattered mirror glinting at their feet like fallen stars. The shadows that had once loomed large now receded, leaving behind a serene stillness. As they made their way back up the stairs, hand in hand, they knew that the story of Willow Creek Manor was far from over. They had freed Isabella, but remnants of Dr. Thorne's dark legacy still lingered, and they understood that their journey was only just beginning. In the quiet of the manor, they could almost hear Isabella's lullaby, a gentle reminder that love transcends even the darkest of places. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story. The aftermath of Isabella's release left an air of tranquility in Willow Creek Manor. Yet Sarah and Mark knew the echoes of Dr. Thorne's dark legacy still whispered through the walls. They spent the following days transforming the manor, pouring their energy into its restoration. But an uneasy feeling lingered beneath the surface, a reminder that some shadows never fully retreat. As they worked, Sarah often found herself drawn to the attic, where the remnants of Isabella's life lay intertwined with the echoes of her sorrow. Each evening, she would sit by the window, gazing at the landscape stretching before her, trying to connect the threads of Isabella's story with their own. One night, as rain pattered against the roof, Sarah was immersed in the diary again, sifting through the pages for more insights. A particular entry caught her eye, written in a frantic scrawl. "I can feel him watching. The darkness grows stronger each day. Dr. Thorne's presence lingers like a shadow, refusing to let me go. I must find a way to break the bond." The entry chilled Sarah to her core. "Mark," she called, her voice trembling. "You need to see this." Mark joined her, his brow furrowing as he read the entry. "It sounds like Thorne had a deeper hold on her than we realized. I think there's more we need to uncover about him," Sarah said, her heart racing. "If he was trying to control her spirit, he might have left behind clues, something that could tell us how to fully sever his influence." The next morning, the couple set off for the local historical society, determined to dig deeper into Dr. Thorne's past. The town's archives were filled with dusty records and faded newspaper clippings, each layer of history revealing a man whose enigmatic life was intertwined with darkness. As they combed through the archives, they discovered reports of villagers who had sought Thorne's help. Many had left his care in worse conditions than they arrived, some claiming he had held them against their will, alluding to sinister rituals that drew upon the energies of the living. It became clear that he had exploited the vulnerable, using their pain to fuel his own dark practices. "Look at this," Mark said, pointing to a crumbling newspaper article. "It mentions a cult he was rumored to be a part of, a group that believed in harnessing the emotions of others for power." Sarah felt a shiver run down her spine. So he wasn't just a doctor. He was part of something much larger and more dangerous. As they gathered their findings, a librarian approached them, her eyes narrowing with interest. "You're researching Dr. Thorne, aren't you?" she asked, her voice low. "You should tread carefully. There are those in this town who still revere him." "Revere him?" Sarah echoed, incredulous. "Why would anyone do that?" The librarian's gaze darkened. "There are whispers of a secret society that persists to this day, believing Thorne's legacy should be honored. They say he achieved immortality through his dark practices." Mark exchanged a worried glance with Sarah. "We need to find out more. If Thorne's influence persists, we can't let it spread." The librarian leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "If you wish to uncover the truth, You might start by visiting the old church at the edge of town. They say it was once a meeting place for Thorne's followers. As the sun began to set, they drove toward the church, its steeple looming against the twilight sky. The air grew thick with anticipation as they approached the weathered building, its stained glass windows glinting ominously in the fading light. Inside, the air was stale, thick with the weight of forgotten prayers. Dust motes danced in the shafts of light that streamed through the colorful glass. As they ventured deeper, they stumbled upon a hidden door at the back, partially obscured by cobwebs. "Do you think this leads to?" Mark began, his voice trailing off. "Only one way to find out," Sarah replied, her heart racing with a mix of fear and excitement. They opened the door to reveal a narrow staircase spiraling down into darkness. With a shared glance of resolve, they descended, the air growing cooler and heavier with each step. At the bottom, they found themselves in a dimly lit chamber adorned with strange symbols. Sacrificial altars, remnants of rituals long forgotten. Flickering candles illuminated a circle etched into the floor, and in the center lay a large tome, bound in worn leather. Mark approached it cautiously, flipping through the pages filled with disturbing illustrations and incantations. "This must be a record of their rituals," he whispered, his voice barely a breath. "It's all about harnessing emotions. Grief, love, fear, even death." As he read aloud, the temperature dropped sharply, and a faint whisper echoed through the chamber, chilling them to the bone. "You should not be here." They turned to find a shadowy figure emerging from the darkness, its presence suffocating. It was Thorne, his face gaunt, eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "You've come to meddle in affairs that do not concern you," he hissed, the shadows swirling around him like a tempest. Sarah felt a surge of fear, but she forced herself to stand firm. "We're here to end your hold on this place and free the spirits you've tormented." Thorne laughed, a low, rumbling sound that echoed through the chamber. "You think you can sever what I have woven? I will not be cast aside so easily." With that, he raised his hands, and the air crackled with dark energy. Shadows coiled around them, squeezing the breath from their lungs, as the room spun in a whirlwind of darkness. "Mark!" Sarah shouted, her voice straining against the oppressive force. "Focus on Isabella," he urged, his eyes fierce with determination. "We can do this together." Gathering her strength, Sarah closed her eyes, reaching deep within herself to summon the light they had felt in the attic. "Isabella, we need you. Help us break this." As they joined hands, the warmth of their love surged between them, pushing back against the cold darkness. Suddenly, the chamber illuminated with a brilliant light, and Isabella's spirit appeared, radiating strength and compassion. "Together," she said, her voice like music, "we can banish him." The combined force of their spirits surged forward, enveloping Thorne in a blinding glow, his expression twisted with fury and disbelief. "No, this cannot be." As the light intensified, the shadows shrieked, and the room trembled. Thorne's form began to dissipate, unraveling like smoke in the wind. In that moment of clarity, Sarah felt a surge of hope. "We will end your darkness, once and for all." With one final push, they directed the light toward Thorne, shattering his hold over the chamber. As the darkness collapsed inward, he let out a final, anguished cry, and then he was gone, swallowed by the light. Breathing heavily, Sarah and Mark collapsed to the ground, the oppressive weight lifting as the chamber filled with warmth. Isabella's spirit smiled down at them, her form glowing with gratitude. "Thank you for freeing me," she said, her voice soft yet powerful. "You have lifted the shadows from this place. Now, I can finally rest." As she faded into the light, Sarah felt a profound sense of peace wash over her. They had not only liberated Isabella but had severed the ties that bound Dr. Thorne to Willow Creek Manor. But as they made their way back up the stairs, a lingering question hung in the air. What else had they awakened in their quest for truth? And would the manor, now free from its darkest chapter, truly embrace the light? Or were there other secrets waiting to emerge from the depths of its history? Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story.